The drums stopped mid-beat. Not gradually, not gently. One moment, the rhythm held the village together. The next, it collapsed into silence so sudden, it felt like a curse. Adesuwa Okorie felt it in her bones before she heard it with her ears. The air under the baobab tree thickened, heavy enough to choke breath, heavy enough to warn that something sacred had been broken. She stood barefoot on the red earth, black cloth clinging to her thin frame, her fingers locked tightly around her father's carved walking stick. The wood was smooth from years of his grip, warm from her palms, and useless now. Chief Adesuwa Okorie would never lean on it again. The strongest man Umuoba had ever known lay a few steps away inside a polished coffin, his face calm, almost insultingly peaceful. 3 days ago, he laughed. He promised her tomorrow. Now, tomorrow had died with him. Whispers slithered through the crowd like snakes. Heart failure, old age, fate, lies. Adesuwa did not hear them, any of them clearly, yet every word cut her skin. She did not need the villagers to speak. Her chest already carried a truth too heavy to name. Men like her father did not simply die. A loud cry shattered the tension. Moronke, her stepmother, threw herself to the ground, rolling in the dust, wailing with such force that heads turned. Fingers dug into soil, wrappers loosened, grief performed like theater. Then Adesuwa lifted her eyes. For one brief, careless second, Moronke looked back at her and smiled. The sound that tore through Adesuwa's heart made no noise at all. Something cold settled in her blood. That smile carried no sorrow. It carried victory. 7 days later, the baobab tree watched again. The lawyer's hands trembled as he opened the envelope. Sweat traced lines down his temples. The village leaned in, breath held, hunger disguised as respect. Moronke sat tall, confidence wrapped around her like royalty. Her sons exchanged knowing glances. They were already counting land, money, power. Adesuwa sat alone. She barely heard the words until they struck her like thunder. All properties, lands, businesses, the family house are hereby transferred to my daughter and only child, Adesuwa Okorie. The world exploded. Voices clashed. Shock turned to outrage. Tradition screamed betrayal. Moronke rose so fast her chair fell backward. "Lie!" she screamed, eyes blazing. "That girl has bewitched my husband." Adesuwa's legs weakened. Her father had chosen her, and with that choice, he had declared her enemy to the living. That night, the mansion became a cage. Moronke's voice crashed against walls like thunder. Plates shattered, curses flew sharp and poisonous. Adesuwa locked herself inside her room, back pressed to the door, breath shallow. Every footstep felt like a knife raised in the dark. Her father's last words returned to her like a warning carved in stone. Trust no one, not even those who smile. The doorknob turned. Adesuwa covered her mouth to keep from screaming. Tears soaked her palms, seconds stretched into lifetimes. Before the footsteps retreated, she slid to the floor shaking, understanding at last that inheritance was not protection, it was a death sentence. When the black SUV arrived 2 weeks later, dust rose and curiosity followed. Daniel Okafor stepped out like a man who feared nothing. Calm eyes, controlled movements. He asked questions that made servants nervous and silence uncomfortable. He listened longer than he spoke. He noticed what others ignored. When he examined the medicine Chief Adewale had been taking, something hardened in his gaze. The bottle had been replaced. A servant broke under pressure. A confession slipped out with tears. Anonymous messages followed. Short, cruel promises of death sent to Adesuwa's phone. Sleep abandoned her completely. Leave the inheritance or join your father, one message read. Daniel doubled security. You will run, you will not save you, he told her quietly. Truth might. Documents surfaced, secrets bled through paper. A DNA test whispered what the village never imagined. Moronke's first son was not Adewale's child. The revelation shattered Umoba. Shame screamed louder than grief. Moronke collapsed, tearing at her clothes, cursing the heavens. Her second son fled before dawn, carrying disgrace on his back. You will never enjoy this wealth, Moronke spat at Adesuwa, venom dripping from every word. Love crept in quietly where fear once lived. Late-night conversations softened grief. Trust grew slowly, carefully. Adesuwa smiled again, hesitant, fragile smiles. Daniel stayed, even when danger followed. Even when Moronke escaped custody and panic swallowed the village whole. Then fire came. Flames devoured the mansion in the dead of night. Smoke choked memories. Adesuwa ran barefoot through heat and ash, coughing, crying, alive by miracle. Moronke was seen fleeing toward the forest. A body burned beyond recognition was found by the river at dawn. The village thought it was over. It wasn't. Weeks later, Moronke was dragged back, broken, sick, defeated. Her confession poured out like rot exposed to sunlight. Poison, lies, fire, greed dressed as love, jealousy disguised as grief. The sentence came swiftly. Adesuwa did not celebrate. She cried, not in triumph, but exhaustion. 1 year later, drums returned under the baobab tree. This time, they sang. Adesuwa stood tall, transformed by pain and survival. Schools stood where ashes once lay. Hospitals replaced ruins. Daniel stood beside her, steady and real. The baobab tree remained, roots deep, listening to peace at last. And beneath it, blood no longer cried from the soil.